You wake up in the pitch black. Your chest feels tight. A sudden, crushing sense of dread washes over you for absolutely no reason. Is a predator lurking outside the camp? Your heart hammers violently against your ribs. You scan the shadows of the cave walls, looking for a threat that is not there. Today, a modern doctor might diagnose you with a severe panic disorder or generalized anxiety. In fact, modern statistics show that over 300 million people worldwide currently live with debilitating anxiety. But 10,000 years ago, your tribe did not have clinics, prescription pills, or diagnostic manuals. They did not have a word for mental illness. How would your small band of mobile hunter-gatherers treat a mind that worked completely differently from the rest? The answer is entirely counterintuitive to the modern world. You would not be locked away in a ward. You would not be viewed as a broken machine that needs to be fixed or isolated from society. For roughly 300,000 years, human survival relied entirely on intense group interdependence. If you suffered from extreme hypervigilance, what we now call post-traumatic stress or clinical anxiety, your tribe would not see you as defective. They would see you as a biological radar system. While the rest of the camp slept deeply after a long day of foraging, your hyper-alert brain would catch the faint, rhythmic rustle of dry grass outside the camp perimeter. You would notice the subtle shift in the wind that carried the scent of a stalking cave hyena. Did your anxious ancestors survive precisely because their fear kept the group alive? Anthropological evidence strongly suggests this was the case. Consider the work of evolutionary anthropologist Edward Hagen, who has studied the origins of human conditions like depression. In the modern world, clinical depression is often seen as a chemical imbalance inside an individual isolated brain. But Hagen suggests that in ancient times, severe lethargy and social withdrawal served a completely different function. It acted as an unconscious, somatic signal to the entire tribe. It was a high-stakes distress beacon that forced the group to pause, gather around you, and resolve an overwhelming social or environmental conflict that you could not face alone. Your low mood was not a personal failure. It was a shared tribal crisis. What if your pain was actually a tool designed to pull people closer together? To understand how your tribe would respond to you, you must reconstruct a typical evening around the fire. Anthropologist Polly Wiesner spent decades studying the campfire conversations of the Juhoansi Bushmen, one of the oldest continuous cultures on Earth. She discovered that daytime talk is highly functional, focusing on work, hunting, and logistics. But at night, when the fire is lit, the conversations shift dramatically to storytelling, mythology, and deep emotional sharing. If your mind was fractured by grief, trauma, or unexplained terrors, this nocturnal space was your medicine. The tribe would sit with you for hours under the stars, singing rhythmic songs, chanting, and sharing ancestral stories that put your individual suffering into a cosmic context. You were never left alone with your thoughts. How could you feel completely isolated when 20 pairs of eyes were constantly reflecting the firelight back at you? But what happened if your mental differences were far more severe? What if you began to hear voices that no one else could hear, or saw figures dancing in the dark that were invisible to the rest of the tribe? In modern industrialized societies, an individual experiencing auditory hallucinations is often diagnosed with schizophrenia and meets a harsh wall of stigma, fear, and social exclusion. However, pioneering research by Stanford anthropologist T.M. Lerman revealed a startling cultural truth. Lerman compared the voices heard by individuals with schizophrenia across different countries. In the United States, the voices were almost universally described as violent, insulting, and highly clinical commands. But in traditional, non-Western settings, the voices were frequently perceived as playful, relational, or the gentle guidance of ancestral spirits. 10,000 years ago, your tribe would not label you as crazy. They would likely view you as a bridge to the unseen world. Your altered state of consciousness would be treated with deep reverence rather than fear. The tribe might conclude that the spirits had chosen you for a specific, sacred role within the community. You might be guided by the camp elder, a figure with gray hair worn in a bun, who would help you interpret the visions. Instead of being cast out, you might become the group shaman, the healer, or the vision seeker who guides the tribe through times of drought and starvation. The very traits that make it difficult for you to function in a modern urban environment would make you indispensable to a prehistoric band. Your ability to enter deep trances, your unconventional associations, and your unique perception of reality were seen as collective resources. Why would a tribe discard a mind that could see what others could not? This reveals a profound and uncomfortable truth about the modern world. The problem might not be your brain. The problem might be the environment you are forced to live in today. Agriculture, industrialization, and modern technology developed at a staggering, blinding speed that completely outpaced human evolution. For 99% of human history, your ancestors lived in small, tight-knit communities where everyone was deeply known, valued, and integrated. Today, you are expected to sit under harsh fluorescent lights, stare at glowing glass rectangles for 8 hours a day, and navigate dense cities surrounded by thousands of complete strangers. You are told to manage your emotional suffering through individual therapy and isolated self-care. Is it any wonder that your ancient brain feels completely overwhelmed by the crushing weight of modern expectations? Let us look closely at another common modern diagnosis, like attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, or ADHD. In a modern classroom or a corporate office, an inability to sit still and focus on a single spreadsheet for hours is treated as a major behavioral disorder. But let us take that exact same restless, novelty-seeking brain and place it in the ancient wilderness 10,000 years ago. A study conducted on the Ariel people of Kenya, a traditionally nomadic group, looked at a specific genetic variant associated with ADHD traits. The researchers discovered that nomadic individuals with this genetic variant were actually much better nourished than those without it. Their restlessness made them relentless foragers. Their tendency to be easily distracted meant they were the first to spot a hidden watering hole or notice a sudden change in animal tracks. Your inability to focus on a modern computer screen is not a defect. It is the lingering echo of a highly successful prehistoric hunting strategy. Your tribe understood that human minds are not meant to be uniform. A resilient community requires a vast diversity of brains, a concept scientists now call neurodiversity. You need the calm, steady focus of the patient toolmaker. You need the hyper-focused, sleepless vigilance of the anxious night watchman. You need the erratic, brilliant creativity of the restless wanderer. And you need the deep, visionary sensitivity of the tribal shaman. If you fell into a dark, unresponsive state of depression, the tribe would physically carry you as they moved camps. They would share their hunted meat with you, mash your food if you were too weak to chew, and hold your hand through the long, terrifying night. You survived because the group refused to let you fail. So if you are struggling with your mental health today, take a deep breath and look backward into the deep past. Your anxiety, your deep periods of sadness, your restless energy, or your strange, wandering thoughts do not mean you are fundamentally broken. They mean you possess an ancient, finely tuned brain that was designed for a world that no longer exists. You were meant to be surrounded by a tribe that listens to your stories around a crackling fire. You were meant to be valued for your unique way of seeing the world. You wake up in the pitch black.